Okay. All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. This is our Committee of the Whole meeting for October 25th, 2022. Can we have, take a look at the agenda? Are there any errors or omissions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I have somebody approve the agenda, please? Thank you. Councillor Saulnier, seconded by Councillor. Oh, did you have something to add to the agenda?
I just wanted to add,
Sorry.
I guess this is, I know it's last minute, but it's just for information and wherever. Seal Island Lighthouse, because I think the Coast Guard is looking to maybe get rid of it or something. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Under information, so we'll put that under 8, we'll put that 8E. Sorry about that. Are you okay still with moving it as amended? Seconded by Councillor Bork. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare for the agenda for tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward, but if you have a conflict along the way, you can declare it at the time of the item on the agenda. Just want to also mention we have 2 regrets tonight from our CAO Muse as well as our Director of Finance, Marcia. Number 3, presentation, we don't have any. That's fast. Number 4, adoption of minutes. October 11th, 2022, minutes of our regular council meeting. Is there somebody willing to move those minutes? Moved by Warden Muse. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Surratt. Any questions on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have number 5, business arising from the minutes. 5A, boundary review, update on community engagement. So our Deputy CAO, Scott Surratt, will take over that one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to kind of give you an update on where we are. I know the last time we said we'd meet with community groups to continue our discussion with boundary review and get some feedback. So we have met with 6 community groups now, 3 seniors, 1 fire department, and just 2 kind of community groups. We have also scheduled 4 more groups that we will meet in the next couple of weeks. We also sent out this week an email to 300 emails that we have as a list that we send out for information for people that have already kind of asked us for that information. So we send that out with the link for the survey, and people are responding to it. We are going to continue to post it on Facebook and on our websites there. So hoping that we can get all this feedback by November the 11th, and then November 15th will be our open house, our last hurrah for the boundary review. So just wanted to share that with the council.
Are you getting a more clear picture in the feedback this time around?
Yes, we are.
Good. Okay. Are there any questions for our Deputy CAO? Go ahead, Warden.
So what about the survey? Do we know how many, can you see the surveys that are coming in? Are they coming here? Are they going to WSP, or what's the?
No, the surveys are coming in here, and we're logging it into the system, so we know how many we've had. Like we have over 60 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you for that. We next have, for 5B, fall grants to organizations. We are going to have an update from Chantal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update for you all. I took the motion that we had last time to approve the spreadsheet with the falls grants to organization with dividing the remaining 1,100 up between the Argyle groups. So I have done that. I prepared the letters, and I believe that the checks were mailed out last week. If they weren't mailed out last week, they will be mailed out this week. They were put in the mailbox, and they should be mailed out by now. So that's my update.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions for Chantal? Okay, thank you for that. Seeing none, we're going to move on. We have 6 financial statements. So we're going to start with 6A, Statement of Operations, Operating Fund. So our Deputy CAO is going to take this one on in the absence of our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're gonna have to bear with me, but it may be go a little faster than if Alaa would be here, our CAO, just sharing that. However, the CAO and the Director of Finance have done a great job here in providing us some documentation here that we can go through, which I'll go through at a very high level. At the end, feel free to ask questions. I will do my best to answer the questions, and if I can, I will definitely make sure that I get you the answer. I'll start with the operating budget, the 3-page document, and I'll start at page 3. Which I do not have in front of me, but at the end, it does say that we have a surplus of, and I might be off a little bit because I lost track of that page, is 236,000 that we are in surplus. And so that's the surplus that we currently have midway through our year here. So this is basically a review for the last 6 months. So now we'll look at the revenues. If you look at the revenue total, it's approximately 107,000 that we have. And so where are we getting the surplus is in our tax, deed tax, transfer tax. We had budgeted 240,000, but we're only looking at midway, so it should be at 120. But we currently have 200,000, so there's 80,000 surplus there in your deed transfer tax. So that's where out of the 107 revenue surplus, 80,000 is from that particular line. So that's where the big difference is. The other big difference is if you look at the HST rebate, it's basically the reason why it's a little higher, the HST rebate, is because you get it from last year's. So once we apply, we ask for the HST rebate, it's from last year. And we spent a lot last year on HST for this building. So now we're reaping the benefits from that HST from last year for all the expenses we paid for this building. So that's where the two big variances are in the revenue, are the transfer tax and the HST rebate. If we look at the expenditure and in the report that our CAO and the Director of Finance have done, they provided us a chart, and I don't know if you have that chart, but I'll just share it here. If you look at that chart, and if you're kind of like me, you're not an accountant or a finance or whatever, I look at that and it's broken down into all our sections that we have in the budget. And it also has the actual and the budget. And all those are fairly equal to each other. And to me, what that signifies as somebody that doesn't have a big accounting background or a finance guy is that things are looking good, that they're all at the level. So that is just kind of kudos to the CAO and our Director of Finance, that they know what they're doing when they're preparing this budget, and they know where the expenses are, know where the revenues are coming from. And we're all at, pretty much the same where it should be at 6 months. If you'd have a variance, if you'd have a budget here and the actuals are way up here or way down here, you'd be asking the question, well, what's going on? And you don't have to ask what's going on. It's right in front of us. Looking at that graph as a layman person, you can tell that we're going in the right direction. And again, it's work from the CAO, our Director of Finance, and you guys to kind of doing a great job at this. That's how I see this graph, and I love this graph. So, but I'll go into a little more detail in regards to the expenses, just kind of highlight. We do have we haven't spent as much money as we had budgeted, which is a good thing, bad thing, depends how you want to look at it. But if we look at the government, general government revenues, which is the CAO office, the finance, the IT, taxation, there's a little surplus there of approximately 21,000. And most of that is coming from savings on the employee training and employee benefits there. If we look at the protection services, there's also about 36,000 or 37,000 of budget that we haven't used up, and that's based mostly based out of the Remo is not using as much money as they would normally do, and I think that's the norm. It's tough to budget the Remo because you never know if there's going to be a big fire or whatever. So it could be depleted, but there's a little cushion there for them. Also, the other piece is that the fire protection, there are lower cost in training, and they have a budget there that they can use for training, and we'll talk about it a little more in the agenda as it's a topic that we'll discuss later on, but that's going to be used in the next month or so anyhow. So a lot of this is around timing too, like just bills haven't been processed or we're still waiting for those things. So it's a little off. That's why there's a little bit of cushion. When you look at transportation, those are like the airport, and it's costs that we already know ahead of time. So there's not a whole lot of difference there. I think we're right on track. If we look at the environmental health piece, there's also a little bit of cushion there. And again, I had the opportunity to speak to the Director of Finance around this and why we're a little bit off, and there's a little cushion there of 30,000. Again, it's around the timing. There's still bills that are going to be paid later on in the year that will kind of eat up that. There's capital repairs that haven't been done. So she said that that's right on track. The public health portion, which is like the medical clinic, we know what the costs are, so we're perfect. There's no issue there. When we look at the environmental development department or section, there's a little variance there, about 15,000, and the variance is that we didn't hire a community development officer. We were planning to hire one, we didn't, and that's why there's a little surplus there or variance of 15,000. So that's a big issue at that one. In recreation and cultural, there's a variance there close to 23,000. Part of it is recreation not reducing their program, so they don't have a whole lot of expense. They've reduced what they were planning to do on some of the things they were scheduled to do, but they just didn't get it done. And there's also the courthouse, again, I did chat with the Director of Finance, and she mentioned that, again, it's more of a timing issue. There's still bills to pay for the courthouse, and that's why there's a little bit of a variance in there. So at the end, we have a variance in the revenue. We have a little more revenue. We got less expenses. So I think we're in good shape. We're 236 surplus. If you have any questions around that piece, feel free to ask any questions.
Are there any questions for Deputy CEO Scott Surratt? Okay. Seeing none, do you need for us to approve that?
I was just going to ask, I think so, yeah.
Accept.
Accept the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we have somebody, you move to accept the report, seconded by Councillor D'Entremont. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Next, we have 6B, the Statement of Operations, Capital Reserve, and Gas Tax Reserve.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report in front of you, again, was created by the CAO and the Director of Finance. And basically what you're getting is a snapshot of the Capital Reserve and Gas Tax Reserve from April 1st to September 30th. I think it's very similar to what the CAO had shared with this council, maybe the last meeting or the week, or the meeting before, just to kind of give an update on the capital projects. So I think he's just broken it down a little bit more on where the money's coming from for all of these projects that we have. I'll just kind of go through a few here, just to kind of give you an idea. So when we look at the first project on the sheet is the Westport wastewater. That's all coming from your capital reserve. We've only spent close to 22,000, but we all know why, because the project's being delayed and because of contract shortages, we just can't find folks to do the work. If you look at the next one, the rural internet, that came from the gas tax. That's pretty much completed. We're just waiting for the last few invoice. The Confit project, again, is coming from gas tax. That's been completed and paid. The Eelbrook Fire Department, that's coming from the capital reserve. We haven't spent anything just because the tender will only go out later on this spring or the 2023 year. So trails repairs and improvements, which is $200,000 that we are currently doing now in East Pubnico. We haven't paid anything there. It's coming out of our capital reserve. It's just because we haven't been invoiced yet from the contractor. I'm not going to go through the rest, but I think you're getting the gist of it, and you can read it as well as I can. Just a few things here, just because it's a project that's ongoing, is just the bracket, the Legion initiative. I just wanted to share that all the banners are up and they look good, and we received a lot of positive feedback on that. That project's coming out of your capital reserve, and where it's under budget, I would say. So it's really good. So other than that, I think by looking at this report, you get the gist of it. Just by me going over it, I don't think it's necessary. But I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt.
I won't put Scott on the spot here. I'll ask probably Nicole or Danny might know this. On the fire hall, do they have a design of any type? Yet that's Eelbrook Fire Hall, or do you know? Maybe you don't, right?
I know that they really reduced the footprint of what they were planning
okay, right.
on, but they're planning on going out to tender in the spring. So
Good enough. I'm glad to hear that.
they are, yeah,
Perfect.
they're moving forward, but it
Just
will
glad
look
to hear
different
it,
than what they were originally thinking.
They're working very hard.
They
on it,
are.
I know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Digdon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This isn't a question as much as a comment. The veterans banners have been a big hit all over the municipality, and I will definitely be bringing it up at council a little earlier next year and than later, because this year a lot of us worked hard, and Scott worked very hard to get this project on the go and get everything up and running. Councillor Bork helped me out with the east side, and some other people in that put into this project a lot. I thank them all for helping us out and getting these banners up. But yeah, definitely look at expanding next year, and that the Legion is well on board with us down home anyway. And yeah, we'll see what next year brings and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our Deputy CAO? Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Boudreau. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion carried. Good. Next, we have number 7 for decision and discussion. So 7A, letter of support, alcohol warning labels. So we have an attachment of 2 pages. From my understanding of this letter is that they are looking basically for a letter of support. They're trying to get some warning labels on alcohol. I don't know if you've realized, but in the media, you're hearing more and more about the effects of alcohol. And I mean, for years and years, it was smoking and cigarettes, and there are warning labels. And now they're looking to do the same or something similar with alcohol products. And they're looking for a letter of support from us for this. Did I cover it? That was good. Was that everything? Okay, Councillor Surratt? That's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add on is there's a little thing I just want everybody to know that it's a Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addictions that's pushing this. And it's I'm on the MAP, Municipal Alcohol Project. I'm the rep for the municipality. So they asked if they could bring this up at our meeting. And the center argues Canadians need consistent, easy to use information and the point of pour to track their alcohol use in terms of standard drinks adding. They also have a right to clear and accessible information about the health and safety of the products they buy. And just one more quick item I've got here that I'd like to finish off with. The report details the potential health consequences of alcohol use, ranging from colon or breast cancer to heart disease, even in small quantities of alcohol. The center is recommending people limit their consumption to 2 drinks or fewer per week to avoid health risks, with 3 to 6 drinks per week marking the range that increases your risk of illness. And that was something that they asked me to read out here tonight. So I'll certainly make that motion that we support it. First of all, so we can discuss. Make that motion
Sounds
anyhow.
good. Do we have a seconder of that motion? Seconded by Counselor Saulnier. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have a few letters of support for funding. So for 7BA, we have the New Horizons Grant, Hubbard's Point Community Center. So it's my understanding that they're applying for funding, and in order to apply for the funding, they need a letter of support from us. So it's not that they want funding from us, it's somebody else, but they need our letter of support.
And that has been done. That's a letter that I got, and there was a deadline, and I didn't want to wait to this meeting, and we got the okay. But I think it's just fitting to do it officially here. So I will move that we give a letter of support to the Hubbard's Point Community Center for New Horizons grant.
We have seconded by Councillor Digdon. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried. 7BB is Patchwork Pals. Deputy CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to the warden's request, the Patchwork Pals are applying for a New Horizon grant. They reached out to me a couple of days ago. I spoke to the president. Their project is about maybe installing an elevator at the Acadian, Club Acadien, I should say. And they're looking for a letter of support from the municipality.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Then we have the CAPEB.
Similar to what we just talked about, they're also doing an application to the New Horizon grant and looking for a letter of support. They have three projects actually. One is updating their website. 2 is continuing to do community suppers, and the other one is intergenerational projects. So the seniors are going to be approaching the schools, our local schools in our municipality here, and work together on a project. And they're again looking for a letter of support.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Then we have the last one, the Village, ACOA funding. We're going to pass that one off to Councillor D'Entremont.
The Village, they are looking for funding through ACOA for a church on the property. So they're, again, looking for a letter of support from the municipality, not looking for funding, looking for a letter of support. I did send, I know it's not attached, but I did send an email. I think everybody received it. They received some monies from the Payamares estate. I was going to say account, but estate. And so that's a project that they're looking to do. So I'll make a motion that we write a letter of support for that.
Thank you. Any questions on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Sorry, did you
No,
have?
that's good. We had a 7C, CAPEB.
We did it.
We did it? Okay.
Did it.
Missed this?
Yep.
Yeah. I thought we were doing,
We did, we did. Yep. He did both.
No, one after the other. And we voted
You were looking at your feet. 7C. Sorry. 7C, Kings Lake. We have an attachment of 4 pages, and we have the bylaw 41, maintenance and improvement of private roads. In the attachment of 4 pages, we have had this conversation at last meeting, the meeting before, where they made a request to our grants to organizations in the fall, and the request was over $9,000. They are on a private road. They're not looking for us to maintain the road. They're looking for a safe place for their garbage because it is security. It's a danger kind of issue, safety issue. They are willing to pay for part of it, but they have asked for funding from us for part of it as well. Trying to think of anything else. They are, one of the questions I had that had kind of come to mind is how this fits with us, but because they are not an organization, association, that's the word I was looking for. They are a registered association, so because they are, what we do as a municipality is we help the money flow through. That's really all that we do for them, because they are a registered association. So they're looking for some funding for garbage, a safer spot for their garbage. Have I missed anything, Deputy CAO? No. To explain that? Okay, so we have, we do have the pros and the cons were well listed by our CAO. We have a recommendation as well once we look at the pros and cons. And we have a couple of options. We can deny their request outright, or we can approve it, but there are some resolutions to approve if we decide so. So that is, to sum it up basically quickly, what are the thoughts of council? What is the wish of our council? Do we feel like we want to support them through this? Do we want to deny it, let them pay for it themselves? Warden Muse.
I would agree. Reading the resolution, at least what we're doing with the resolution is limiting what we can give. It's only up to a certain percentage, but there's also an amount there that it's whichever is the least, right? So in other words, we wouldn't give the full amount if 35% brought you. But, well, according to this, $3,500 is the limit, or 35%. So if 35% brought you to 2,000, you would only get 2,000. You wouldn't get to 35. And I have no problem. It is for garbage pickup. We are not going on the private road. This is going to be done on a registered road. They still have to bring their garbage. We're not saying we're going to go on that private road to pick up the garbage. They would still bring it, which they do now, but apparently where they're bringing it now, there's been some issues, not just with them, but with the haulers as well, that they find that it's a very unsafe place, apparently. So I would say that my feeling is that we should help with this.
And I think part of this as well, part of the conversation that came up the last time was, can other private roads, can they form associations? And they can. It's stated in this that they can. So that number and that percentage is in there kind of as a protection for us. So up to 35% that we would contribute, or $3,500, whatever it falls under. Councillor Surratt.
Well, I'll second that so I can speak. You made the motion, right?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, now I'll second that.
Okay.
So we can discuss.
Go ahead.
Just, I'm sure, and I know probably Anna or maybe Deputy CAO might know, if we contribute this amount, it's going to be on Department of Transportation's land, I wonder? They must have approval, right? If they're asked, if you would think. I'm not, I'm kind of questioning as long
That's a
as
great
it's
question.
allowed.
Mm.
You know, I guess if Deputy CEO, did you hear anything about where they're putting it, or if it's some, it must be approved by somebody.
Unfortunately, Councillor Surratt, I do not know, but I know he's been in contact with the CAO and they've discussed it. So if he'd be here, I'm sure he'd be able to answer that one.
But that's
So,
okay, I'm
yeah,
sure they've
yeah.
done that. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions on that? Okay, there is.
Question?
Question's been called. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Can I just add to council that also in the motion that we would amend the bylaw as it stands right now to actually put in that language so that if happens again, there would be some direction from council how to deal with this. So it's not only accepting it, it's also amending the policy, the bylaw.
The bylaw. Question's been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have 7D, Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission. There's an attachment of 1 page. I read this and I can't say I was 100% clear on what this meant, so I'm going to pass this one over to Councillor Surratt, if you don't mind.
I do not mind at
Okay.
all because I've been involved in this. Mr. Warden, thank you. Yes, I understand that. Yeah, I've been involved in this along with the other 2 reps, council members on there. As you know that the port, the assets of the port are trying to be, what's the word now, to be passed on to another organization? Divested, thank you, Richard, that's the word I was looking to, and they're naming the new board like Portco, Yarmouth Port Organization. So I'll just read a couple of things I want to read. The Yarmouth Industrial Commission has determined that port assets could be more effectively managed by a private sector-driven board of directors comprised of experienced, industry-based local business leaders, and is considering ceding managerial responsibility for port assets, including the Tri-County Regional School Board building, the parking lot, to a new incorporated body to be called Yarmouth Portco. And what they're requesting is this: they want to make a board, a new board that'll be watching over all the port assets, as I've read, and they're asking for a board. So they're asking the 3 municipalities to be a nominator. In other words, to name a representative for the board. So I'll read this. The 3 municipalities have experience in nominating its members to various internal and external committees and boards. The draft bylaw for the Yarmouth Port Corp excludes the nomination of any elected individuals. Therefore, the municipalities would have to nominate an individual other than one of its councillors. An initial letter would go to each municipality with information on the new corporation and invite to become a nominator for the board, for a board member for the new corporation. So we would become a nominator. If the municipal unit agrees to become the nominator, a second letter will come to us and would go to each municipality and include information on the types of disciplines and experience that would be beneficial for the director of the new board that we would name. So you can't name a councillor number, that's one thing, you're not allowed. And number 2, you wouldn't want somebody maybe that's, I don't know, like myself, a mechanic. You'd want maybe somebody that's a fisherman or somebody that's involved in the fishery to manage that. So they're asking us to be to accept to be a nominator. That's the question
That makes
they're
sense.
asking. Yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
Right.
Warden Muse.
So I didn't know that this had gone to all 3. Like, this came to me, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand exactly what they were looking for. I brought it to our CAO, and he said, I'm really not sure what they're looking for. What do they mean by nominators? So would we be nominating someone to represent our municipality only?
The municipality of Argyle only, yes.
And so then we don't know at this point, do they need 2, do they need 3, do they need 1? Like that would come, so we would have to find just one from each
Just one from each
municipality.
municipality, yeah.
One from each municipality. So we would have to find the person that would represent us on that board.
That's right.
Okay.
There'll be a letter, Danny, going out. Once, if you accept, once we reply to this and accept, then they'll send what the discipline, what they're looking for as somebody that, let's say like Calvin that's been fishing. You know, although he's a counselor, but I mean a fisherman or somebody that has some knowledge about fishing and wharves and that.
That would be interested in sitting on a board such as that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Donaldson.
Yes, that doesn't mean that there may only be one member from the municipality of Argyle on the board. There may be other members that represent different sectors that will make up that board.
Okay.
Like an industry rep or a tourist rep, but the municipalities are asked to name one from this group, right? From the public. Like I think of a fish plant owner, like when that comes to my mind, right? But there may be somebody else in a different sector that Mr. Bellefontaine is going to be reaching out to see if he can get volunteers that he feels that are qualified to be on that board. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Madam Chair, if you didn't mind, I'll just read something. Richard, thank you. That's a great point. So the way the board's going to be made of is going to be 11 directors. There's the Town of Yarmouth, Municipality of Yarmouth, that's each one. Municipality of Argyle is one. Acadia First Nation will have one. Coldwater Lobster Association will have one. The Yarmouth Port Corporation, which is the user group, like somebody that's using that port now, which would be an independent person like a fisherman, well, there'll be one there. Yarmouth Port Corporation, a user group, corporate. Let's say that Mr. Kaiser, who runs the ice plant, he could be put as one business that's gonna nominate. And let me see. Also, once the board is made up of those 8, then the board will get 3 directors, regular members. They'll pick 3 themselves. The board, when it's made of the 8, they'll pick 3 more. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? And I'm going to direct them to Counselor
No,
Surratt.
that's okay. I just certainly know.
Just press
Mr. Wood.
your button.
No, you're not on.
Press your button.
There we go.
Thank you. Who would this board answer to?
Great question. The board would answer, that this board would answer to the Yarmouth and Area Industrial Commission. So in other words, they'll be taking over the operation of the port and with people that are used to the fishing and what's going on in ports and that. But if there's any huge monetary decision to be made or something, it would come to the Industrial Commission again to say, let's say they wanted to spend $1 million over here. We'll be on the hook, the Industrial Commission, which is the 3 units, will be responsible. So it has to come back to the Industrial Commission, which will then say, yes, no, or bring it to our individual councils for decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Counselor Digdon.
Thank you. So I guess I'll ask Counselor Surratt. So you've been to a lot of these meetings, know a whole lot about it more than what I do, or a lot of us do. So do you think this is the right way to go for us and our municipality?
I personally think so because we've been managing the ports, and Kathy and Richard are on the Industrial Commission, and we've been going around in circles quite a bit. And let's say that the Industrial Commission goes for a grant, but the wharves do need repair. If we go, they've looked at it, but somehow the government doesn't look to, a lot of times, to give money to the municipalities But if it's a private board, they're fishermen, they may have more clout. So therefore, it's better to go that side. That's a big reason. Richard and Kathy, if you can think of, there's other reasons. Richard, if you
Go ahead.
help me out on this.
Going back to what Ted was saying, the industrial commission, which is essentially the three municipalities, are still going to own the assets. It's just, this is going to be a management board that hopefully can run it better than me and Kathy. I mean, we're not involved in the day-to-day operation of the wharfs or the school board building. So you're going to have people that are supposedly on this board that can do that in a far better way than we can. And that's basically what it is. And it's been years trying to get this set up. And Mr. Belfontaine has finally got the ball rolling because he's got so much experience in doing this kind of work all over the Maritimes. And he gives us examples like of Charlottetown and other medium-sized ports and small ports. And we don't fall under the small crafts and harbors in Yarmouth. And that may be something that the future board may want to look at because it's not that big of a deal in there. I mean, Dennis Point would be bigger than what the Yarmouth structures are. So there's so many places that they don't qualify for money. There's a loophole, right? The big ports like Halifax qualify under certain federal programs. Small crafts and harbors qualify under programs, but there's only a couple wharfs like this under that structure that don't qualify for anything. So I'm very impressed with what Dave Belfontaine has been doing, and I'm on board. I've been advocating this for years, really, right? I said my argument was always people from Argyle, Pimlico, or wherever really have no business trying to run a wharf in Yarmouth. So that's where we are now, and I was a little skeptical when we first started because it sounded like some people were almost trying to derail it, but it's come around now, and So
I'll just add this, Richard. Glenn, also, this Mr. Belfontaine that you're hearing, he's a consultant. He ran the Port of Halifax for 20 years. He knows what he's doing. And yeah, so that was impressive, right? He's a good guy.
Thank you.
Easygoing. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Is there anybody else that has a question or comment for Councillor Surratt, I would say? Okay, seeing none, what is the wish of council? Do we want to make?
I so move that we send a letter that we accept to be a nominator.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. That was good. Thank you for clarifying that because I really wasn't sure about it. Yeah, good. Oopsies. Next, we have E, November Committee of the Whole meeting. That would be our executive assistant, Chantal Newell. You are on.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So as you guys know, typically we do cancel the Committee of the Whole for November, and this year it is on November 29th. However, we are proposing, if it is the wish of council, to move it back a week to November 22nd, since time allows for that, as typically we do, as you know, regular council on the second Tuesday and then the last Tuesday for Committee of the Whole, but it ends up working out that there's 3 weeks, so the week before you'd still have 2 weeks in between a regular council and a Committee of the Whole. So if that's the wish of council, I'm just looking for a motion to move that.
Moved by Councillor Bourque, seconded by Councillor Digdon. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Did you have or is it for the next item?
Before we go to the next
Okay.
item.
Go ahead.
Just in regards to Councillor Surratt's question around whether we're talking about Kings Lake and the garbage site, our CAO, who is in Jamaica, is texting me right now and saying the land that they're planning to install the site is actually owned by the landowners association. So it's and currently where it is, it's actually the site that they're using now to put their garbage is actually not their own, like it's somebody else's land. So that's another issue.
Okay, thank you for that. We have 7F. No, we do not. That's 8. We're moving on to 8. 8 for correspondence and for information. So 8A, we have the NSFM Monday memos. There are 2 listed there, October 11th and October 17th, for your reading pleasure. We have 8B, we have a thank you letter from the CAPEB that is there as well. We also have 8C, the NSFM Service Exchange Renegotiation Survey Results. There is an attachment of 20 pages. We have 8D, Fireman Training Request. For information, we have Counselor Surratt / Deputy CAO. That's the next one, right? Yep. Okay. No problem. It's all right. It's okay. We are at D.
So we did receive a formal request from the Argyle Municipal Firefighters Association for some funding for training. And once we received it, I spoke to the chair. Marcia spoke to another firefighter. Alas spoke to another firefighter too, and we kind of came to the conclusion there might have been some confusion, or maybe not confusion, but they weren't aware that there was already budgeted training for them, and there was still money there available for them to use for the training. So we've cleared that up, and that's why it's only under information only, because they don't need to request for money. The money's there to be used, and I think the confusion was that and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Surratt, but I think the training normally happens in our local area, like our fire department create their own training, but they're not doing it this year. So the training is actually happening outside, and it's in Yarmouth. So I think that might be the confusion, that because they were going to Yarmouth, they thought they needed extra money for this, but it's not. We just kind of clarified that, and just wanted to share that with council. And that's why it's under for information only, not for decision.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt.
Thank you, Scott, for digging into that. Certainly at the meeting, they were, Dan, our warden was there, Warden Muse, and yeah, it wasn't clear to them, and that's what it was. Then I wasn't even sure why, they didn't know that, but you certainly clarified that. If you wouldn't mind, Madam Chair, just at that meeting, and I'm sure the warden can add on to it, the fire departments are, how will I say that? And if they're listening, I said what I want to say. Still, I think it's still okay. They've got a lot on their plate. I'm not trying to put them down or anything like that. I mean, they studied it themselves. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of computer work. Some of them they don't know a lot about computers. Some of them, they had a lot of paperwork to follow. They've got to watch the insurance, how much, some of the members get sick or something's happened. They have to follow that. There's so much training and stuff, and they need help. They need help, and they need help. From what I got from the meeting, Warden Muse, they spoke about how Barrington was 5 years ago, they were in a mess. Barrington was in a mess. In a mess, the fire department was really getting down. Volunteers were hard to get. Their equipment was raggedy, I guess I could call it. They were way out of date. In 5 years, they got I think it's called a coordinator, fire coordinator. In 5 years, now this is from the firemen at the meeting. They said they came to a fire, they were called to come to a fire in Publico, which Councillor Dickton was there. They've got, their uniform is top notch, their equipment, they've got a ladder truck. I mean, a county that has a ladder truck, those are $1 million. The firemen, Argyle Fire Association, they were so impressed with what they saw. They just couldn't believe it. And I said, so what happened there? And they said this fire coordinator coordinator, goes there, fills out the paperwork, helps them to apply for the budgets, brings any concerns to the council. So it's really worked well for them. And question was asked, do you want a coordinator? Because I said, 20 years ago when I was coming to these meetings, before I was a counselor, we wanted nothing from the municipality to touch anything we were doing. We wanted to be our own little place. And some of the younger members, the fire chiefs that are there, they said, this is not 20 years ago. We need help. They said it to me. That's how they kind of said it. We need help big time. So apparently, if everything goes right for their next fire association meeting, which is in December, they're going to ask the fire coordinator from Barrington to come and speak to them. So instead of being like I was 20 years ago, me and a few others that are still there, they want help. And as you know, you've heard it around these tables. Don't touch anything they do. Don't do anything. Don't say anything. We'll do our thing. Now they're, to me, I felt they're looking for help. Warden Muse, can you add anything there?
When you're talking about the good equipment that they have, okay? They have combined, they're down to three or four fire departments, right? Where they had 9 or 10 or 11 or whatever it is, right? And this is what, when they were talking about how can they get that much good equipment, yes, the coordinator definitely helped. But the fact that the municipality now only has 3 departments to spend on, they can have much better equipment. We still have our 7 plus the
2, 9.
plus the 2, 9, right? So anyway, and I think that's one of the reasons why you see some good equipment. But definitely, I'm not saying we should join the fire department. That's
No.
not what I'm saying. But it's just to say that that it makes a difference when you've got 3 fire departments to look after rather than we have as far as equipment. So yes, they need help, and they really wanted to hear what this coordinator had to say from Barrington, and it's good that they're at least maybe going that route anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Donaldson.
Just to comment on what Danny said, I don't expect Argyle to ever go down to 3 or anywhere close to it because geographically there's, like, it's Route 3 along the road, along the shore, right? You got one in Woods Harbor, you got one in Barrington, and you got a big one on Cape Sable Island, right? That will cover that. So none of them is actually that far from each other. So it works there, right? But I mean, it can't work with Wedgeport, Pumlico, like it's too big of a spread, right? So
It's hard.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that was just a comment.
No, it's a good comment.
Thank you. Thank you for that. 8E, we have Seal Island Lighthouse. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Boudreau. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem.
I was at the in town on Saturday watching the play at the Arc, and I was talking to a gentleman, and we had concerns about our volunteer fire department. That we didn't get any volunteers anymore. In Barrington, as far as I know, this is what this guy was telling me. There's courses in school that give you credits, and they've got all kinds of volunteers up in Barrington. So that's maybe something that we could look at to get more volunteers. Thanks.
Be a good incentive. Go ahead, Councillor.
Gordon, thank you for saying that. Councillor Digdon brought it up to my attention about this course. He had talked to the people from Barrington at the fire. So I brought it up to at the meeting that through Councillor Digdon. And the firemen said they had looked at it before, but it didn't seem to follow in what their way of thinking was, or something like that. But they said they were now possibly talking after the meeting, would look into it. Yeah. So that's a great point. They had mentioned that. That's great.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. And just to clarify, yeah, we've been looking at it for a while now in West Pubnico. There's no saying we haven't. But instead of, and I was going to look at it further for the West Pubnico Fire Department because I am a member of that department as well. But I feel as though instead of just us going it alone, if we could have more departments in the municipality come on board with us, it'd be more power in numbers, I guess, as far as to see if we could get the schools to come on board with us. And what they do is they will offer credits and that to these students that take the fire department training and stuff like that. So they'll be awarded some credits, which may be a good thing. And maybe that's something that the fire coordinator, when he comes up, could kind of touch base, with all the departments and just see what becomes of it. I'm fully for it myself because it's a win-win situation. We gain volunteers as departments, and these students get credits,
Right.
which they need. And that's so, but at the same time, I'd hate to go it alone. I don't want to offend any other departments around us, but I feel as though if they could all come on board, or the majority of them come on board, it may be a good thing to look into by all means. Thank you.
What a great concept, huh?
Mhm.
What a great concept.
Counselor Sonia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment that the importance of allowing kids to participate in anything will only prove for them to participate in whatever they did in the future, so to speak. If you go in school and you participate in soccer, you're probably going to end up loving soccer and playing soccer. Scott can probably agree with this. I played ball, and I ended up playing ball my whole life. And I think you can apply this to not just sports, but everything, including this, what these people are talking about. And including young people is to me, a foolproof way to have things done and have a healthy community. Thank you.
Agree. Counselor D'Entremont.
We always seem to be talking about the fire departments almost at every one of our meetings, and we know how important they are in our community, in all our communities, all through the municipality. The fire coordinator in the municipality of Barrington is very intriguing to me. Maybe if we could have the fire coordinator come to our council and make a presentation, I'd be very interested to learn about what exactly the fire coordinator does. And, since we are always talking about problems and, deficiencies in our volunteer fire departments, maybe it's time that we, take a very serious look at, what the future holds and how we can help them out. So just a suggestion.
Would you like to make that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Great point.
Any questions on that? I don't assume there are. All those in favor signify by, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion carried. Are you okay? You didn't need to?
No.
Okay,
That's okay.
okay. We will go to 8E, Seal Island Lighthouse.
I don't have anything, an attachment, or I didn't send an email. This is just something that came up today. And anyway, so the Sea Lion Lighthouse, it's a historical piece of infrastructure in the province of Nova Scotia, in our municipality. And I guess maybe through the grapevine, we've heard that the Coast Guard is, maybe looking at not maintaining it just because of, costs and all that, like any other thing. So anyway, I'm just bringing it here to council. I was asked to bring it and to, I guess, use our political channels, per se, to maybe lobby the government to maybe think it over. Because, again, it is, part of our history, it's part of our culture. The Sea Lion Lighthouse is, one of the, most, I guess, isolated but beautiful lighthouse in Nova Scotia. A lot of people have not seen it because of its isolation, but it is one piece of art, as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's something that we should hold on to it is part of, our Nova Scotia culture here. So anyway, so just wanted to update council on that, and I will have stuff in the future to bring up, hopefully to council, and we can, hopefully use our political channels to maintain it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. The only thing I'd like to say there is I support Councillor D'Entremont 100%. And if we don't act on it early, it's much easier to have something, to keep something you have, to try and get back something after it's gone. We've seen that. Yeah, I won't even go on that one tonight. And that, but anyway,
Mhm.
yep, thank you.
So we look forward to you bringing more information at a future meeting. Okay, number 9, financial requests. There are none. Number 10, agenda topics for next meeting. Notice of motion by councillors. Does anybody have anything for that item number? Okay, seeing none. Question period. Nothing in question period. Number 12, there is no in camera. So we are at number 13, adjournment. All right, move to adjourn by Councillor Sonia. That is